Hi friends! Today we're talking about the social needs of livestock and why they need to be raised with others, preferably of their own kind, to make sure they're happy, healthy, and productive. Listen in to find out why you don't want to raise animals alone, whether you're raising them for food or breeding purposes. Let's go! Hey friends! Welcome to the Get Goat-Wise podcast. Are you longing to raise goats and other animals for food but don't know where to start? Do you want to be more self-sufficient and less dependent on the grocery store? Do you wish you had a mentor to walk you through raising livestock? Hi, I'm Millie, animal scientist, cattle girl turned goat rancher, co-owner of Dry Creek Livestock, and simple living enthusiast. For 15 years, I've been on a mission to raise all of our own meat, eggs, and dairy. Here, we'll talk about raising goats and other homestead livestock, how to create sustainable animal management systems that actually work, and a bit of off-grid life with kids and livestock. If you're ready to take control of your food supply, raise livestock with confidence, and provide your family with the most nourishing meat, eggs, and dairy available, you're in the right place. Kick off your muck boots, pour a cup of coffee, and let's talk livestock. Hey there! Do you want to hang out with like-minded folks who are also interested in raising their own livestock and seeking self-sufficiency? Inside the free Raising Goats and Homestead Livestock community, you'll get tips on raising goats and other livestock and ideas to increase your self-sufficiency. Join now at bit.ly/getgoatwisecommunity. You can also become an insider and get weekly emails from me with the latest podcast episode, tips on raising goats and other livestock, real-life information about self-sufficiency and living off-grid, and early bird access to special offers. Sign up at bit.ly/getgoatwiseinsider. Happy New Year! I hope you all had a great time bringing in the new year. As usual, I went to bed early and woke up to a fresh new year. That's what I do every year. I really do love the new year to look back on the accomplishments of the past year and look forward to all the possibility this next year brings. I've almost completed my planning, which gets me even more excited to see what we will have accomplished 1 year from now. We've had some snow and wind, but the bitter cold temps we often see this time of year haven't set in yet. The temperature has been dropping into the single digits Fahrenheit when the sky is clear, but we haven't seen below zero temps so far in January. I won't mind if it stays a little warmer than normal through January and February. I mentioned that this week we would be putting the bucks in, but I never did give an exact date we were planning to do that. I've learned to schedule in some flexibility so that we can do the work when it's best for us and the goats, not in a blizzard or 20-mile-per-hour winds. I scheduled it to happen this week, and it got done. Had the whole week of weather been bad, we would have picked the best day and just got it done. But knowing there was a break in the storm forecast for Friday, I didn't mind waiting a few days. We sorted does into breeding groups, moved them to the new pens, and put the bucks in on January 3rd. So kidding is due to start June 2nd, but I always plan to have some born a few days early. We also moved the bottle calves in with the feeder kids so they'd have more space and as much hay as they wanted. We brought a steer up from the meadow to be a companion for Ray's 4-H steer and provide some competition for feed, which will motivate them both to eat. They're close to the same size, and that steer is ready to be finished, so it should work out well once he decides that he'll be okay without his girlfriends. He was a bottle calf born in 2023 and was raised with 2 heifers that were also bottle calves, so they're kind of their own little herd. We'll see how he's growing and get a butcher appointment scheduled in a few months. In most cases, livestock animals do need a companion, preferably of their own kind. They're herd animals. They came from a herd and should be in a herd. The herd serves social purposes as well as protection, and we commonly see 2 types of reactions when animals are kept in isolation. First, the livestock can just get depressed. They're lonely. They'll stop eating or just pick at their feed. They lay around all day. They lose their playful nature. Well, it's not fun to be alone all the time. While some animals get depressed, Others panic. The ones that panic being alone will do whatever it takes to find a companion. In the process, potentially hurting themselves going through or over fences and maybe hurt other people. Instinctively, they know they are vulnerable to predators if they are away from the herd, and this causes them to aggressively seek out a herd. Here are some problems you may see. Going off feed. If you are raising animals to be productive, either to reproduce or provide food for your family, they need to be eating. When they go off feed, they won't produce. Feeding time is competition time for most livestock, and when they are by themselves, they don't have any competition. For your feeder animals, meaning the ones you're growing up and finishing out to harvest, if you want them to perform, they need competition. This applies to cattle, hogs, sheep, goats, and most other food animals. Stress. A stressed animal is not going to make good meat. If your steer or hog or whatever animal is stressed out from being alone, when you butcher them, you will likely be disappointed in the final product. Meat producers know that you have to keep animal stress as low as possible to harvest a high-quality meat product. As a side note, this can also happen in the short term prior to butcher. The loading and hauling process needs to be as smooth and gentle as possible for the meat quality to be great. On-farm butcher is a fantastic option if you don't have any experience with this. If on-farm butcher is not an option, take the time to load your animals several times, even weekly for a few months prior to slaughter. Make sure they like going in the trailer. Give them grain or treats, take them for a drive, then let them sit in the trailer for a little while. Do this a dozen times and butcher day will be a breeze. This experience is common in people new to raising livestock, and I think it's a big reason people quit. They buy their animals, put in months of work and a bunch of money, and the meat they get back from the butcher is marginal at best. A lot of people blame the butcher. But friends, if you take a stressed out, glycogen depleted, lactic acid producing animal to the best butcher in the world, even he can't fix that mess. He'll do his best, but the odds of a quality product resulting from that situation are not good. If you'd like to know more about pre-slaughter handling, let me know and we'll cover that in a future episode. So how do you plan for this with your livestock? Never buy just one of any livestock animal. That is the easiest way to avoid these problems. If you can only buy one because of availability or expense, then buy a lesser expensive available animal of the same species to be a companion. We used to do this with show goats. If we sold a single show goat to a 4-H kid, we offered a commercial kid or dairy kid they could borrow to raise along with their project animal so that their project animal would grow and perform and be content and happy. If you want to feed out a pig and you only need one to meet your needs, raise another one along with it for a neighbor. Together, they'll eat better and gain faster, which will lower your overall cost of production. If you want to raise a beef steer or heifer, raise it alongside another bovine like a dairy cow. I know that's expensive. That's why I think starting small is best. You can practice and learn a lot with a smaller investment in dairy goats and meat goats or sheep. If you have a livestock animal that is a pet, it's still best to have a companion for them, preferably of the same species, but some will be okay with any other animal as a companion. Just like other, more traditional pets, you need to spend a lot of time with them if they're going to be raised alone, and that's a big commitment. Even our wethers that are, quote, pets, are raised along with the other goats. We don't keep many goats as pets, but we do have a couple that are getting cart trained to replace our old wether that pulled the goat cart. Bottle-raised goats, lambs, and calves are more likely to thrive in a solo situation. It's still not ideal, but since they see you as their family, they tend to do better. When it comes to breeding stock, this is typically less of an issue because most people don't buy one female goat or sheep to have bred. If you do that, you can't count on the buck as companionship because at some point you're going to have to separate them. So don't view a doe and buck as a breeding pair and companions. Get 2 does and 1 buck, or consider leasing a buck. I'll link episode 24, which will help you make the owning or leasing decision when it comes to bucks. In the off-season, bucks will be penned away from the does. If you have only 1 buck, it's best to have a wether as a companion. As I talked about last week, our bucks run together most of the year, except when they're in rut, and they are penned next to each other where they can see each other, which is sufficient companionship during rut. We do our best to not leave a single buck alone at the buck pens. He'll be stressed out and noisy. If that situation comes up, we'll usually go ahead and pen the lone buck with a couple does just to keep him from getting lonely. Some animals can and will function okay without an animal companion. Family dairy cows are often raised alone, but remember, they must have a calf to produce milk, so they are no longer alone at that point. I'm not a dairy cow expert, and I expect there's a lot of variation between animals depending on how they were raised. Some are probably perfectly content alone, while others are not. Based on experience with other animals, my guess is that you're going to want to shop around until you find the right dairy cow that fits your situation. I'll be interviewing a dairy expert soon, and I'll ask that question. I have seen solo wether goats that really bonded to their humans, but if they don't get enough attention, they tend to get into mischief or get depressed. Other examples of animals thriving alone are mostly long-term residents of the farmer homestead, like the family dairy cow, a guard donkey, or a pet. But for the purposes of meat production and for the general happiness of your animals, it's best to make sure they have a friend. I hope this episode helps you determine the right number of animals for your farm or homestead and how to best meet their social needs and keep them happy and productive. Avoiding the single animal problems when you are learning to feed livestock for butcher will save you a lot of stress, money, and discouragement. And when you harvest that first one and the meat quality is fantastic, you'll be so glad you did. Hey there, thanks for listening today. I'm so glad you're here. If this episode helped you or encouraged you in some way, share the link with your homesteading friends. And if you really want to help me out, click on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. You can connect with me on Instagram or email linked in the show notes, and meet me back here soon for more Get Goat Wise.